Hello everyone, it's Luli, and today I'd like to do a spoiler-free review of One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. But before I start, note that although I would not consider any of what I include this video as spoilers, I'm aware that what you consider spoilers and what I consider spoilers may not quite align, so if you're even a little bit sensitive and you don't even want to know, for example, what's on the blurb, then I would swiftly move on. Also, I would really like to thank those who have tipped me from my time and supported my channel through Patreon, Ko-fis, donations. I truly appreciate it. Also, those who have boosted my Discord server, that means a lot too because it helps improve it. So those are my thanks, and I think that's it. Let's start. So first up, let me kind of set the scene of the world in which One Dark Window takes place. It's kind of in this gloomy, dark, foresty kingdom, and it's kind of a world in which magic can infect people. So if someone walks into the woods without holding a charm, for example, a rabbit's foot, then they get like consumed with madness and start walking into the forest, and it's actually kind of creepy. And that's not the only way magic can infect people. Sometimes people just be afflicted by it and become ill, and the thing is, if they survive it, they end up having powerful abilities. Now, for various reasons, the king has condemned those with like these powers, and so if anyone has it, they and the family that concealed them put to punishment. And yeah, there are, however, ways to legally use magic, and that is through these Providence cards. Now, Providence cards, there are various different types, but they each have different abilities. Now, however, in this world, every bit of magic you use, you pay a price for it. So, for example, one of the cards is this pink one called the Maiden. If you use the Maiden, then you are gifted with unbelievable beauty while you use it. However, the longer you use it, the more cold-hearted you get with time, and that is kind of the price you pay for looking beautiful. So yeah, it's quite a brutal world, to be honest. And now the main character naturally was infected by this magic right at the beginning, and she somehow survives it. Her aunt manages to conceal her, no one finds out. Unfortunately, her powers are kind of on the sort of down low almost, and it's basically, if she touches one of these Providence cards, she immediately absorbs the ability of them. Now, one day, accidentally, she touches the Nightmare, which is a card in which it allows you to get into people's minds and talk to them through, like, literally their brain. And however, when she touched it, a nightmare appeared in her mind that kind of talks to her, and it's really interesting because throughout the story she's sort of talking to this inside nightmare, and I think that was actually part of what I really enjoyed in this book, because you've got this thing that's supposed to be really terrifying, but it almost feels endearing, like it's her friend or something. But that plays a key role in this entire story that I won't go too much into detail because that's kind of the fun of reading and discovering about it. But yeah, that's kind of like the world, let's just say. But before I say too much and spoil everything, let me say what I did and didn't like about this book. So the things I did like about One Dark Window is that the magic system is so well thought out and beautiful. Like, you know, you could really imagine these beautiful Providence cards, and they're extremely valuable in this world because there's only so many of them, and it kind of almost makes you want one because it's described so beautifully. And I really love the world building, the way you've got these trees, the forestry, the gloominess of it, the way the magic infects. It feels so dark but in a nice way. And I also really like the characters, like Elspeth, her cousin Ione. There's the prince. Prince Elm is like my favorite character in this book. And you know, the villains are hateable in a great way. The protagonists are lovely and you adore them, but they all have depths and like internal conflicts, and it was just so much fun to read. You know, I love fairy tales, and this was basically a fairy tale. as I said earlier too, there's that kind of constant dialogue between Elspeth, the main character, and the nightmare that resides within her. And, you know, I think that plus the relationships that develop, because this is a romantasy, by the way, it was just kind of fun, like a nice smooth read throughout, to be honest. Now, things I didn't like. I just quickly mentioned just now that it's a romantasy. There is a scene where the scenes where people do the deed, so to speak. I found it a little bit too flowery, to be honest. The way it was described. Like, some people might find it nice and pretty, but I was like, okay, this is a bit too flowery for my liking. But that's like one small, minor detail. Another thing is the fact that, Elm wasn't the main male character. As I said, he's my favorite character. Now, note that he does become one of the main POVs in the second book because this is a duology. But when I was reading this book, I was really sad because I just liked him so much as a character and I wanted him to play an even bigger role than he already does. That's kind of my selfishness and, desires speaking. And the third one, I think this says more about how good the writer is, ironically, than not. But I guess another thing was that the world was so well built and well established, but that by the time I got to the second book and was reading through that, I was kind of like, I had felt like I'd been in the world for so long and wasn't as interested in it anymore. I don't know if that makes sense. So like in the first one, it all felt really fresh, new and all of that. And I went into the second book and I just kind of, I don't know, I think bored is the wrong word. That's a bit strong. I felt like I was just so into and dwelled into the world that I didn't feel special anymore. It felt like that was where I belonged in that moment in time, which that makes me sound kind of crazy. I don't know, it's really hard to describe. Like I said, bored is probably the wrong word, but it was no longer refreshing maybe. But I think that goes to show how well established and well described and how well done the entire realm and all the details were. It just, I don't know, I was just so into it that it felt like my norm, at least when I was reading the book. Now, ratings. I gave the pacing a 4 out of 5. There were no parts where I was bored. I think it was well paced throughout the whole thing where I was able to smoothly read constantly. I wasn't distracted by any other books. So yeah, it was like a nice speed, not too fast, not too slow. The characters, I also gave it a 4 out of 5. I think they really had like a nice depth. They were likable. They were also unique. The villains, like the antagonists, were hateable in a good way, in an understanding way. Yeah, all the characters left an impression, to be honest. None of them was like, wait, who was that again? They all had depth, and yeah, I liked them, whether it be because they're nice or because I hated them, if you know what I mean. Like, it was really well written. I liked all the characters. I kind of actually kept on thinking about the characters after I finished reading the book, which is a really good sign in my opinion. It means that they were so three-dimensional that they kind of become part of my life for a little bit, because I'm like thinking about, I don't know, I'm sounding crazy as I go down this review, but I think those who are avid readers will know where I'm coming from. The plot I gave a 4 out of 5. It was intriguing. There were for me, there wasn't really so much a twist or turn or any revelations, but I think it was a really solid plot. As I said earlier, from my pacing, I was constantly reading it. I wasn't getting distracted by anything. It was beautiful. It was just really great. To be honest, I don't know why I'm giving them a 4 out of 5. I should be giving 5 out of 5, but for me to give a 5 out of 5, it has to be exceptional and spectacular and crazy, which never happens. So yeah, it's a 4 out of 5. I gave the quality of romance also a 4 out of 5. I really liked the relationship between Elspeth and the male main character. It was kind of like a slow burn-ish. It was a very realistic way of like a relationship to happen, in my opinion. It wasn't too quick, it wasn't too slow, it was like the perfect amount, I think. And like I said, very relatable. If only that scene wasn't so flowery. For those who read it, you'll know what I mean. It is so unbelievably flowery and pretty. I mean, I think some people would really appreciate that, but for me, I was like, what is this? Now, the amount of spice, I gave it like a 2 out of 5. It wasn't like spicy scenes left, right, and center, but it wasn't like just a peck on the cheek either, you know. They actually do like kind of things happen, so it's still there, but I wouldn't call it, you know, a book that's smart or anything like that. It is very much just a dark fantasy romance. The romance is there, but it's not all about that, which I like. I'm not actually much of a smutty girl, so I actually like it when it's a romance with a little bit of realistic things happening, if you know what I mean. So then overall rating, like how much I liked it, was sort of a 4/4.5 out of 5 for me. I honestly recommend this book so much to anyone who likes romantasy as a genre, especially if you like it a bit dark and gloomy. Like, honestly, it was so pretty, so much fun to read. I personally enjoyed the first one more than the second one because the first one focused on fewer POVs, whereas the second one was like focusing on, like, I can't remember how many, but I don't know. I know a lot of people actually prefer the second one over the first one, but I actually like the first one more. That's not to say the second one is good. The second one is still good. If you enjoyed the first one, definitely read the second one. Honestly, it's worth it. But yeah, I did enjoy the first one more. Now, would I recommend this book? Yes, I would, definitely. Obviously, we all have different likes and dislikes, but if you find that our opinions often match, whether it be in like Otome games or like some of the books that I've read previously, then yes, I would highly recommend it. However, I would not recommend it if you're not like into romance or you want something happy or you're into like more contemporary stuff, because this is very much like kind of court drama, fantasy, kingdom, politics, you know, that sort of thing. So if you're like feeling like more like office love, then this may not be it for you. But yeah, I think that kind of is all I have to say about this book. Yeah, I just really liked it. Is it obvious? But anyway, as is always the case, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and hopefully I will see you in another one of my videos. Bye!